All right.
And so, yeah, that's kind of like where I ended up with that. Like, is it my responsibility to find that out? Or should I just like focus on where I am and actively love the people around me? Like, is there like balance? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it ends up being a very personal decision. No, meaning holding to your integrity and what you know and the service you're providing to the people, and then extending it out to the service that they're providing to people, and in this realm of like, man, by killing people, we are helping people live. Listen, I'll be the first in line if we have this kumbaya world where everyone's getting along and we all love each other. That's not the world we live in right now. And as it is, there needs to be a certain group of people who help other people who can't help themselves, because there is a group of people, ISIS at this moment, who are trying to like kill and rape and torture and do atrocities to people. They should be, from my yogi mindset, wiped off the earth, because your mindset is broken. If I could talk to you and change your mindset, let's start there. But right now, I'm pretty sure I should just shoot you, and then you're going to be gone. And but then what happens is, if they have families, so then all of a sudden those kids see that I've killed them, and then they have a mission in life to kill me, and then the violence will never solve anything in the long term.
And then we have a new generation.
And then you have a new generation. This is the problem with war, is that you just breed new warriors, right? I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying that's the fact. Violence begets violence. War begets war. Period. So then back to your question, Charmaine, is like, then it's like knowing the reality of the situation and the intention of the leaders who are putting you in these places. Does that weigh more heavily or not with the service you're providing and your own conscience? And that ends up being a judgment call. And at certain points you may be like, no, I'm good. I believe in my mission. I know we're doing good. I know this is right for me. And over time you may realize this isn't right anymore for me. I need to transition, because I can't consciously live in this world knowing that the leaders and the powers that be are putting me and my fellow, human beings, my fellow workers, in situations that I can't get behind anymore. That's just the reality. You guys see how murky that is? You see how gray that is? And that's why we always have to come back to, in your own mind and heart, what is right for you, so that you live your best life. And at the end of the day, that's your decision. But it all goes back to still self-love, self-worth. Do you feel it's still in alignment? Yeah, Sean.
So, hopefully this makes sense, and it's kind of in the same vein that everyone's talking about, but I've always wondered, like, the school shooter or the mass shooter, they believe what they're doing is right. They think that they have an ideal, they have these experiences, and they believe that they're right. So I guess it comes in to say, what does yoga have to say about that? Like, because it's about experience and about, what we believe is right. But sometimes what people believe isn't right. Like, they believe in what they're doing and they're for their cause, kind of what you're talking about with the terrorists.
Yeah.
And we're to be practicing ahimsa and non-judgment and all these other things, but I think it comes in where, I know we were talking about judging, but we do have to judge rightly at some point. Do you understand kind of what
Yeah.
you're saying?
My belief
What
with
does it speak to with that? Like, where does
It's almost
it-
kind of a truth conversation.
my belief is that everyone has an inner compass, and it goes back to what Chris is saying. If we're not violent to ourselves, and we have a level of respect and love for ourselves, it's impossible to be violent to other people. In that way, in the mass shooter, and like go out and do some random violence to people that are innocent. Do you know what I mean?
Because, like, they believe what they're doing is right, but they think that it's...
How do we know that they believe what they're doing is right? What if they do know it's wrong and they still do it? Because we don't really know what they're thinking, that's right.
Yeah, you're getting into the psychology of it. So, but that's like to do violence to other innocent people, right? So I want to be clear with this, so taking out no, I'm protecting my family. I'm protecting, I'm protecting a group of people. I'm on a mission doing this specific random violence that you see in a terrorist group. They or mass shooters, they're hitting soft targets, people that are like, they're just living their life. They're trying to have a good life, and all of a sudden their violence is happening. Like, if we get to the root of ahimsa and the nonviolence to ourselves, the love, the respect we have for ourselves, if we have that, right, then that's where it starts. Is like we have to start with the nonviolence within us, the love for us, because that is the bedrock of every other, literally everything else we're going to talk about today.
You're saying it's basically impossible for us to be, if we have the root of that down, anyone that does it, it's impossible for us to, barring what we talked about in certain circumstances. But
Unless we're doing it for a specific
right.
reason to help other people
Got
in
it.
the process, then it's the violence to promote nonviolence, you know.
Because I don't, at that point, I don't care what your belief or your truth is. You're now doing, like, sorry, you can have that belief and truth in a next life, because you're about to kill innocent people who have done nothing wrong and have they're not trying to harm you. Like, what we're saying is like, all right, if someone's trying to harm someone, let's just, like, if violence is needed to protect other people, okay, let's do it. In that example of like mass shootings, there's no one, they're kids, they're at school, they're just living their lives, right? And then the root of why they would even go there is because the turmoil that's inside of them. That may be their truth, but I will do anything and everything in my power to stop that person from ever doing that. Meaning, and this is kind of leading us into like the next Yama, which is truth, Satya. Like, we all have our truth, but when your truth encourages you to take actions to harm other people, that's when your truth no longer, in my mind, matters, in the sense of I'm not going to allow you to live your truth out. If I have the ability, I will stop you in your, like, doing whatever I can do. Like, let's talk if you can, but if not, sorry, you're going to have to go. It sounds very harsh. I know we're sitting here in a yoga training, but this is my point. This is why we want to have like these deeper conversations about it, because like loving kindness is like, oh, okay, it's just like, let's just be loving and kind. Yeah. Go ahead.
So we talked about the anatomy of the body, and so it's like everybody's mind is different, and we're having a reasonable conversation. I would say most of us here are reasonable. We want this truth, but I'm gonna leave my eye out, but I feel like people are wired differently. Their lives are different. There's a belief that I have that there are just some really bad dudes, some really bad people, and it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to be that same because they're wired like that.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
It's a small portion. That's really, I mean, in the totality, it's a sliver. Like the majority of people want what we want. Like people are, the majority of people in the world want to be loved. They want consistency in their life. They want to know they can get up and know that I can turn the water on, I can go to the river. Like, they want like that a level of consistency. They want a level of variability, a level of like the spice of life. You know, that part of it. They want significance. They want to know that what I'm doing matters. But most of all, they want love and connection. Like, they want that part of it. And so that, like, and yes, there are some people that have been twisted, and they are in places of power that they can twist other people and create these movements that are completely distorted. And that, like, and so there needs to be because there is that, and they're doing harm with other people. We have to also have the light has to balance the dark. We have to have a level of light that helps balance that out. And I don't know what can be done to shift those people in such a radical way that they're able to wake up.
Just like our bodies are all different, you know, and like we can't get into certain postures. What I'm saying is, how do we? I mean, when they do these investigations of these like serial killers, where they're like literally like go back to their childhood, where they're, you know, young and torturing animals. It's like there is a certain
Yeah.
Almost every single time. Yeah, totally, Antoine. Almost every single time there was a level like there was a level of abuse that happened that formed that, right? And like there's a level of abuse, even on the bigger scale, like an ISIS, like a movement in that way, there's a level of abuse that happened somewhere, right, that created this movement of like, we need to do it this way. And I don't know enough about it to speak of it, but
Can I say something to it?
yeah, go for it.
So, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but where you're going with this is like, I understand that people's histories are their own, and that their histories are really what's influencing the actions that they're taking right now. Meaning, they have some darkness in their lives. The majority of the time, the right appropriate response is empathy and compassion for those people. Because man, they're in hell. Literally living in hell where nothing connects inside, and they literally feel separate from themselves. And that compassion is real and it's powerful. And when that darkness influences someone to be violent towards somebody else, while I have compassion, there is a time to step in and say, that cannot happen. On a micro scale of 1-to-1, like if you're going to harm, like if you're about to harm your significant other and I can step in, I will step in and do what needs to be taken. Any actions need to be taken to stop you, regardless of the darkness that's inside of you. And I've got utter compassion for it, because I understand that's what's driving you to even be able to do that. On a mass scale, same thing. Listen, I have utter compassion for those people who literally think that they are right in killing other people, because I know there's darkness inside of them that they've lived with that gives them the idea that that could ever be right. And there's moments where we got to step in. So the conversation isn't like those people I have zero empathy for. I've got utter compassion and empathy for everybody, because I know for them to be able to do violence against other people, there's got to be darkness inside of them. And I will not let that compassion keep me from helping someone who needs to be helped. I still have an issue, but like I have no compassion, barring everything I just said, towards pedophiles. Like if you're harming a child, and if you're doing anything towards a child, I like for a period of time, and I've softened it. That's why I'm still kind of there. I'm working on it. I'd rather just kill you. And then I realized, and through research, I was like, that's literally, I feel like a pain in my heart when I think about that, because I literally have rage and I want to kill those people. And then through research, I realized that the vast majority of pedophiles were sexually abused as a child. So this is what happened to me. I was like, wait, the person I want to kill is the same person I'm saving. The person I want to kill is the same person I'm saving, just at different stages of their life. And all of a sudden, I couldn't help but be more compassionate and have an understanding of, oh my God, that sick, twisted fucking mind that would ever be able to do that is doing that because it was twisted by someone who did that to them. It spurred on more compassion. And if I knew there was a person who was about to do that, I would step in unequivocally and do whatever needed to be done to keep them from harming that child and repeating a cycle. You guys see, like, it has to start with love. It has to start with compassion, because that's really the only thing that will change the world for the better. And there's points at which when someone's about to behave in a way or act in a way that will adversely affect and be violent towards somebody else, that we have to step in. That's nonviolence on a micro level or a macro level.
But it's also when you know better, you do better. Because if all you know is, I've been trained since a child to be a suicide bomber. That's all I know. That's everything. They glorify that in my neighborhood. They glorify that in my community. They glorify that in my religion. Not saying that it's right. I don't agree with that at all. But if that's all I know, then that's what I'm gonna do. If all I know is that my dad left and I grew up thinking that he didn't love me, then that's all I knew. I didn't know the reasons behind it, and then when you turn 18, you sat down and had the conversation, and you know, oh, okay, you said I may have made the same moves. It's all in what you know and you're exposed to. And so if we don't take the time to understand where that person's coming from, like, I know you're not mad at me. I know nothing about you. I don't know why you'd be mad at me. I'm gonna avoid and deflect and try to maintain this situation as much as possible to avoid any balance. But if your beliefs and your darkness overweighs that for me, then I have to go to my darkness to protect myself.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a big part of it. A lot of people even with inner city, they don't know that there's a way not to be stressed or not to react with violence. They don't know that education is the key, or they haven't been taught the proper job training, that they didn't see their mom and dad go out to work, or they grew up in the projects, so they feel like that's all they know, and it's a cycle. When you don't know any better, you can't do any better. So education is going to be key to that.
Yeah.
And I think with the way technology is, it seems like things will be getting much better because you have such exposure where they don't have to go to the library or look at an encyclopedia like we had to. But I guess half of it is getting better and half of people are doing it worse. I don't know.
There's always the balance of light and dark. You know, it's always shifting. I know Elsie, you have your hand up. Antoine, do you have your hand up? Do you want? Yeah.
I was just going to comment because I recognize that like we all have different levels at which we justify violence. You know, we kind of went through and talked about how we have all these reasons why we would justify and even go to the altar where we would take someone's life, which is really interesting. You know, I think we've all experienced or even seen people or done this ourselves where even like simple words will get someone to a point where they'll get into a violent confrontation. And then you take it to the next level where someone says, well, you can talk all the trash you want, but don't put your hands on me, right? You put someone else in that same situation, like the two of you, for example, where you said you'd step in where someone was being violent towards children, but if you knew that person wasn't going to hurt you and you know how to defend yourself, that wouldn't be a justification for you to hurt them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could be throwing blows and you're like, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would need to be a justification for you, right? To that level. So it's just interesting how we have, depending on where our head is and where our consciousness is, we have different lines. If you will, right? I think that's the reason why a lot of the work that we do, that we're doing, is so important, right? Because I think we're talking about respecting life in general, And I think when we talk about that idea of like turning the other cheek, and all of us say, oh, well, that's way beyond where we can even go. But it's pointing the direction that we need to go. That's where we're going, right?
Yeah.
That's where we want to go. Because as you mentioned, violence begets violence. Like at the end of the day, you're just creating more violence in the world, right? You can justify it any way you want, like I'm defending my bros, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're creating more violence by putting more violence in the world. And the hope is to get to the place where we're disengaging that violence altogether. When you guys talk about the Course in Miracles, and then they say how there's a difference between body identification and spirit identification, and you want to get to the point where you're identifying as spirit and not body, because a lot of these justifications are defending your body because we believe that we are bodies. And there's a story about the Buddha that Mary Williamson tells, where she says that essentially the short story is the Buddha was in a temple and he was doing this thing like meditating, and a warlord comes to the temple to take it over and says everyone needs to get out, and everyone runs, but the Buddha stays in the temple and he's meditating. And so he sends them several messages. He's like, look, I will kill you if you don't come out of this temple. And the Buddha stays. And so the warlord goes into the temple and says, look, you don't understand. I will take the sword and I will slice you in half. And the Buddha says, no, you don't understand. I would let you. And every time I hear that, it gives me chills. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, he's on the level where it's like, this isn't as important as you think it is. As we think it is, as we justify it. And again, we're not there. We're not there. None of us are there.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But that's where we're going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where we're all trying to go. And that's why what we're doing is so important, because we're talking about teaching people how to get to this internal space where we all understand that we're all just one. We're just one person. And everything we do outside of ourselves, we're doing it to ourselves. So when we're creating more violence in the world, that violence comes back to us. And like all this dysfunction that we're talking about is hurt people. And it's a reflection of where we are in our society. Right? We talk about pedophilia, we talk about people who are broken, and oftentimes they've experienced something that's created that brokenness in themselves.
Wow.
So it's a really interesting kind of subject to kind of get into, because we all have different levels at which we can experience it and justify violence.
Yeah.
You look at it like killing an animal.
Yeah, well, I was going to go there.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
so like,
But again, I go about the respect for life itself.
and that's what triggered it for me, Antoine. It's like the killing an animal. So, like, would you guys kill an animal?
No.
Yes,
Yes.
we do all the time.
Right? All the time. Like, so a mosquito, I mean, even a,
We sponsor it all the time.
uh-huh. How about simply a mosquito landing on your arm? Right? Not even thinking about it. But so kind of where Antoine's going with this is we draw lines
Draw
in the
these lines,
sand,
yeah.
right? Would you kill a cockroach? Would you run in my house? I'm going to kill a cockroach, right?
What about abortion?
How about,
Thought about that.
right? How about a mouse? How about a bigger animal? How about, you know, so like we have these lines of like, all right, violence is okay up to this point. And then everyone, like, and then we all decide, okay, where is that? Where is that? But Antoine brings up the bigger point, which I love, is that like if the moment we can identify with spirit, the moment we can begin to identify with our true self, the realization that we're just like these bodies are not, they're not permanent, guys. We're just leasing these things, right? Well, we're going to do our best to take care of them, right? Because it's the finest instrument you will ever own, right? The finest instrument you'll ever rent or at least. So take care of it, fine tune it. This, make it right. But also understand that it's impermanent. That at some point we're gonna let it go. Here's a great example of this, and we want to get you guys to journal because all of a sudden this is going long. But a really good friend of ours. He was a neighbor for a while. We've known him for a long time. About 2 years ago, his girlfriend he was with for close to a decade, I think, she was diagnosed with stomach cancer. I'm not sure where, if it's colon or what part of the stomach, but it was stomach cancer. They gave her about 6 months to live, and he was with her through that whole process, and then she passed. Right? Really, really intense. Dramatically shifted his whole perspective and everything, like obviously. About 5, so it's 3 to 5, about 5, maybe close to 10 years prior to that, our father and with his third wife, the same thing happened. She was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and he spent the rest of his life and worked through that process of being with somebody all the way to the end and seeing them pass, someone he loved so much. Just recently, our friend found out that his mom got the same stomach cancer, and she's given 3 months to live. So he's now going through that process again with somebody that he loves so much. My dad's in town right now, and he's the husband of our friend's. It's not his father, but it's his stepfather, basically. Is great friends with my dad, and he's just recently talked to him about being there and coming over and being part of the process. He's worked in hospice for a long time and being the part of that process. So I just spoke with our friend recently, and he was at the house checking on his mom and got to sit down and talk to my dad. And he was like, it was incredible. It was amazing, like healing for me, because I went through this crazy ass experience with my girlfriend, and now I'm having to do it again with my mom, and I'm like beside myself, and it feels like my world's melting down. And to have your dad there to like just give me the words and the wisdom, the support in this process was like incredible. Like we're dealing with this all the time, and so the realization is like we're all on that path, guys. Whether it's cancer or car accident or just old age or whatever, we are moving in that direction. And the practice of meditation, literally the practice of Shavasana, is to remember that impermanence. To remember that we don't know when we're checking out of this experience. We don't. And to give ourselves that daily practice of realizing that we're impermanent gives us gratitude. Right? The result of that is gratitude. It's a it's a shift in perspective where how can I take things so fucking personal? How can I be in an argument for days or weeks with the people that I love? How? I don't know when it's going to go. I shift into an attitude of deep gratitude of like, I get to spend another day with my kids. I get to spend another day with my wife. I get to spend another day with my brother to do this. I get to spend another day with you guys doing this stuff. Sharing, being together. It gets me out of what Anton was saying, it gets me out of that personal, physical attachment of thinking this is so real and so important and all of a sudden something like that happens where you realize this is impermanent. It could go like that. Let me get clear on what's really important. Let's grab our journals. Open up your journals. I think this is just this one, Chris. I said this might just be this one.
Yeah, I think so.
What question do you want to do with this one?
Have one just to journal about it. Just to journal about it.
Okay. All right. So the journal, the topic for this one is ahimsa, nonviolence, practicing loving kindness. And I think we've dove deep enough to give you good material to journal about. So we're gonna let you just take it from here. How does this topic relate to your life, your experiences? What does it mean? Give you about 30 seconds. Just kidding. Do you want to cut that?